Number 10, the sea spider. If you're like me and you don't like spiders living on land, well, I have some delightful news for you. They also live in the ocean. There are even giant ones that suck out the lives of their prey. Yup, they latch onto their prey for dear life and suck out any and all fluids they can get their hands on. Yay! Their leg spans are about the same as one of the largest spiders on land, such as the Goliath bird-eating tarantula. I should say they are technically not spiders, the main difference being that they carry their organs in their legs. In fact, they are almost all legs. Though they aren't very dangerous to humans, especially considering they live so far beneath the waves, they would definitely still send a chill down my spine. Thankfully, they reside in cold climate waters, mainly Antarctica. In our number 9 spot today, we have the sarcastic fringehead. The sarcastic fringehead is a saltwater fish that is fairly small. They're around 30 centimeters long and are fairly slender with very large mouths. They're pretty aggressive fish and they are very territorial. When they fight other fish, they press their mouths together and that's how they can tell who the bigger fish is, and the bigger fish just automatically wins the fight. These things honestly look like they shouldn't even exist. These fish like to make their homes in shells or small crevices, and they have even been found to be living inside of humans' littered soda cans. Luckily, they are so small, they aren't really a threat to humans, but they are just so creepy to look at. Number 8. I love this name. Gulper eels. Gulper eels, or pelican eels, is another aptly named creature as it's known for its massive balloon jaws. They are black in color and can usually reach around 2 to 3 feet in size, or sometimes double that, and live anywhere between 10,000 to 16,000 feet beneath the surface. Unlike the Fangtooth, however, it does have a little bioluminescent spot on its tail to help lure prey so it can open up its jaw and swallow them whole. They also have really small teeth, so they kind of have to. Gulper eels can inflate their jaw and stomach to almost 2/3 the length of their body so they can consume prey larger than their body, hence the name gulper eels. That's a great name. That's terrifying though. Their primary source of food, however, mainly consists of crabs and shrimp and other small creatures. So if they don't thirst after humans, I shouldn't be scared, right? Wrong! What if they get tired of small game and realize the power that they are capable of? Just saying. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Atlantic wolffish. Okay, these guys are named due to their teeth, and honestly, you can totally understand why. On both the upper and lower jaw, they have like 6 sharp and strong teeth that honestly freak me out. Because of how strong their teeth are, they tend to eat hard-shell creatures like crustaceans and mollusks, and they are also important to keeping the sea urchin and green crab population in check. The wolffish like to stay mostly in one area and tend to live in near freezing temperatures. They have such a cool feature though. Because they live in such cold temperatures, they have what is basically just antifreeze running through their bodies so that they don't freeze up. Even though they look super creepy, I do have to admit that that is pretty cool. Unfortunately, these guys have a population that is quickly declining, largely due to being accidentally caught by those who are overfishing. The good news is that they are only a species of concern at the moment, which does mean that there is still time to turn it all around. Number 6, the Northern Stargazer. While the Northern Stargazer sounds like a very romantic name for someone who heads north to check out the northern lights, nope, we're talking about this guy. This deep-sea creature lives in the dark open waters of the Chesapeake Bay, a region in Maryland, USA, where salt and freshwater mix. Stargazers have a flattened black and brown body with white spots along its back. This compressed exterior is perfect for the way they bury themselves beneath the sand with just enough for their mouths and eyes to be exposed so they can keep an eye on food. Once something tasty catches its eye, it opens up its mouth, creating a vacuum and sucks it down like a little snack. Its mouth faces upwards towards the top of its head and its eyes sit right on top so it can look straight up at the stars. Now the name seems clever. Look, they don't eat humans, they eat mainly little fish and crustaceans. They're pretty harmless. We should leave them alone, but imagine just for a second, you're scuba diving and all of a sudden you just see this staring up at you. That's enough to give you nightmares.
In our number 5 spot today we have the Pacific viperfish. The Pacific viperfish can be found at different areas in the ocean depending on the time of day. They usually like to stay in the bathyal zone, which is 1,000 meters to 4,000 meters below the surface of the ocean, but at nighttime they will sometimes rise up into much more shallow water because there is more food for them to eat. It's easy to pick out which fish is a viperfish because of the fact that its jaw is sticking out forward and then it has those extra long pointy teeth. The Pacific viperfish is predatory and mostly eats other fish, but will also chow down on crustaceans, plankton, and shrimp. The fish can grow to be about 1 foot long and are considered one of the most aggressive fish for its size. I know it's only 1 foot long, but hearing how vicious it is, coupled with how ugly it is, I really just don't ever want to be anywhere near this thing. One cool thing about these fish though is that they have what is called ultra black skin, and it reduces the reflection of anything that is illuminated around them so that they can camouflage themselves easier in the darkness of the deep sea.
Number 4. The fangtooth fish. Yup, you heard that right. Yes, it is exactly as it sounds. The fangtooth fish has a mouth full of razor sharp teeth perfect for clutching just about any size of prey in its jaw. That's right, any size. But it's fine, they live in the deepest parts of the ocean, the deepest having been recorded at around 16,000 feet. That is until they just so happen to feel like migrating up to the surface for a little vacation. Unlike a lot of other deep sea dwellers, fangtooth do not have any bioluminescent organs to attract their prey. That is because they're not the sit and wait kind of predator and instead seek out their lunch using their excellent sense of smell. They are more active than most deep sea dwellers and heavily rely on any light that may seep into the dark home. But oh, I should also mention they're also only 7 inches long and not dangerous at all to humans, we think. Tiny but mighty, as they say.
In our number 3 spot today we have the goblin shark. A goblin shark is sometimes called a living fossil because the rest of the family that this type of shark belongs to have actually all gone extinct. Not like its mom and dad kind of family, but the family that this species belongs to. These sharks have pink skin and a long snout that sticks out really far, and these really creepy teeth that are like nails. When these sharks were first discovered by humans in 1910, the guy who was researching them wrote that this shark is certainly grotesque. They usually grow to be around 3 or 4 meters, which is 10 to 13 feet, but in 2000 there was one that was caught that was 6 meters or 20 feet long. These sharks tend to stay pretty deep in the ocean, with the adults swimming even deeper than the young ones, so they don't tend to be a threat to our ways of life, thank goodness.
Coming in at number 2, we have the anglerfish. If you were wondering what the heck that big ugly fish was in the clip at the beginning of this video, that would be the anglerfish. This bony fish is known for its luminescent horn that is used to lure other fish as prey. There are different kinds of anglerfish, but those who live in the deep sea are referred to as sea devils, which truly does feel fitting. The females are much larger than the males and can reach up to almost 4 feet, while the males can reach up to 5.5 inches. An anglerfish is able to eat prey that is the same size as itself. That's crazy! Luckily, most anglerfish remain so deep in the ocean that they are not a threat to humans, and even if they did live not so quite deep in the oceans, most humans would just be too big for them to even try to attack. So there. That sure doesn't mean they aren't crazy to look at though. If you like this video so far, let us know by pressing that thumbs up button, and be sure to follow to stay up to date on our channel. Now it's time for number 1.
In our number 1 spot today we have the colossal squid. This one already sounds like a horror movie ready to stand beside the likes of Jaws, Godzilla, and King Kong. The colossal squid is a real creature that lives in the darkest, coldest depths surrounding the waters of Antarctica. This creature lives up to its name as it reaches an average of 46 feet in size and weighs around 500 kilograms. I'm 5'5", so if it decided to eat me, it could fit 8 of me inside of its stomach, or more if I was in pieces. Anyways, they also have large tentacles equipped with suckers that have little razor hooks on them to better latch onto its prey, and let's just hope that its prey isn't you. Its diet mainly consists of large fish such as the 7-foot Patagonian toothfish, and small ones, and even consumes their own kind. But they've also been known to try and consume larger prey like sperm whales, who often have been seen with scars attributing to their battles they must have faced. If you do decide to provoke one, however, make sure it's not female. Apparently, they're the larger ones. So, to conclude, they're colossal, scary, and ambitious. What more could you want from a sea monster? At least now, if you ever wondered where the tales of the Kraken came from, you now know.
Number 10. Cursed tablet. We'll kick this list off with a super recent discovery, small but mighty. This tablet comes in at just 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters, little. Discovered only a couple of weeks ago in the West Bank, this artifact has historians scratching their heads because it's a couple hundred years older than any Hebrew texts. Yeah, it predates the Dead Sea Scrolls by 1,350 years. The ancient letters mean to call God onto anybody who breaks this curse, so yeah, hot start for this one. There's around 40 proto-alphabetic letters, early Hebrew writing, all folded onto this little lead tablet piece. Now the fact that this small tablet mentions the curse of Yahweh is pretty alarming, and we found it too. That's incredible. This sediment comes from excavations done in the 80s on Mount Ebal. So many believe this is from the ancient stone structure, Joshua's altar, and it just made its way to us. The tablet was dated to around 1200 BC. The chemical isotopes in the tablet suggest that it's from that mountainous range in Greece, aka the Mountain of Curse. Yeah, just the thing we need right now, an ancient curse from an ancient curse mountain. Nice, keep it up. Number 9, the SS Monaco. When coming across these deep sea discoveries, it's rare that we find, well, anything at all, for starters, but to find something ages ago still intact, it's beautiful. It helps us understand history, like a 90-year-old shipwreck, for example. The SS Monaco was built in Glasgow back in the late 1800s, and the passenger vessel would take daily trips from Toronto to Hamilton. I know, I said deep sea curses, but this was only a year ago in Canada, so I had to talk about it, okay? It's fitting. The ship sunk due to too many passengers, but many believe a curse was behind this whole thing. The ship was apparently renamed, which in ancient seafaring traditions is bad luck. You don't want to do that. That's bad juju. You pick one name and you stick with it, you know? I'm not changing my name up, although I kind of want to some days. Now cut to 2018, 4 Canadian divers located it, and it's almost completely intact still. It's haunting to look at. Number 8. Mayan caves. Back in 2018, again, recently, a diver was exploring flooded caves in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, because apparently that's how some people spend their weekends. How fun is that? That's pretty epic. They were diving around the area and saw a peculiar opening and then went in. Yeah, have you ever accidentally discovered one of the largest underwater cave systems in the world? No? Well, get new hobbies, I guess. Start diving, apparently, because we're missing out. We're watching YouTube videos. This guy's exploring caves. A team of divers explored many kilometers of Mayan history without even really knowing what they were in for. National Geographic got involved and explained that these skulls, given the amount found, were more than likely involved in some sort of ancient sacrifice many moons ago. So many elongated skulls were found, suggesting the ancient Mayans were up to something a little darker last time these caves were occupied. A lot of ancient sacrifices going down in those caves. If curses are a real thing, I bet there's probably a few laying down there, so we should probably just stop, drop, and close up this shop. Number 7. Heraklion. Ancient cities, ancient gold, ancient shipwrecks. I mean, for sure there's got to be ancient curses as well in this plethora of ancientness. Before it was discovered in 2001, the ancient city of Heraklion was barely mentioned in texts throughout history, which is amazing. Yet somehow archaeologist Frank Gaudio found it. It was hiding in the depths 7 kilometers off the coast, and it was pretty obvious that it was once an ancient city because there were, 64 shipwrecks, 700 anchors, and 16-foot statues just hanging around. So yeah, ancient city for sure. One vessel was around 80 feet long. It was a classical Greek flat-bottomed ship with oars on both sides and a massive sail. So it was a bit hard to find this wreckage though, seeing as it was hidden 15 feet under the collapsed Temple of Amun. Yeah, oops. A project led by the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology poked around the area and also found a 4th century Greek funerary area. Yeah, this whole area was just haunting. Just a lot of curses here. Ancient graveyards underwater. This is where curses were born, my friend. Leave this part of history alone. Number 6. The Vasa shipwreck. Back in 1628, the Vasa sunk within 20 minutes of setting sail. That's not a good thing. That's tragic. How does this happen? It claimed the lives of 30 souls on board. The Swedish Navy launched the ship August 10th, 1628, and it was once considered a high-tech warship, even referred to once as spectacular. believe it or not. So yeah, again, what happened? Well, the first rush of wind caught it off guard, and the second rush completely sank it. That's how fast it was. There was even a crowd around and everything to send this mighty ship off. But the 64 bronze cannons that were installed during the rushed process of building the warship were deemed too heavy. Yeah, the lack of oxygen in the water allowed for its rediscovery to continue its story and for us to figure out what went wrong. And the vessel was built with carvings all around the king at the time, which was King Gustav II. So historical find, yes. Tragic, also definitely yes. Humans focusing too much on naval warfare rather on if the ship can actually stay afloat. I can't tell if this is a curse or just humans being humans. Is there a difference? Number 5, Bermuda Island. We can't have a list on deep sea curses and not talk about the vanishing island, of course. Bermuda sounds a lot like Bermuda, but don't get the two mixed up. If you try and book a flight for Bermuda, well, you may not even arrive at all. Your TripAdvisor would be like, sorry, is your autocorrect off? What did you mean to say? Bermuda Island was seen on several maps throughout history. Cartographers clocked it numerous times, as you would, you know, an island. This is back in the 16th century, okay? So no one really had any reason to lie, I guess. They're just like, oh, it's a spooky island. They're like, hey, ghosts don't exist. We need to know where land is. No time for fooling. But in 1997, it wasn't seen during a survey, and again in 2009, when researchers went to go find this location that was once there historically, it was gone. It had vanished from the Gulf of Mexico. It was originally charted off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, and it was 80 square kilometers. That was pretty big, again, but the leading theory to its absence now was that this cartographer once upon a time may have put a fake island on the map just to spot copycats, in case you want to, copy anyone's maps. Do we believe that though? I mean, I'm 50-50. Is this just another Atlantis or another Heraklion, perhaps? Which island is the next to be doomed? Some cartographers say the island has been sunk since 1844, others say it's still moving around to this day. Yeah, so keep your eye open for any drifting islands. Number 4, ancient Greek shipwreck. The oldest shipwreck discovered in the Black Sea, and you would never guess by looking at it. The ship is from 400 BC. It's an ancient Greek trading vessel, and it's not very large, but somehow this ship has been in great condition for over 2,400 years. Yeah, over a mile below the surface as well. So the lack of oxygen actually preserved the ship. That's why it looks like it sank, a year ago and not thousands of years ago. John Adams was the principal investigator with the Black Sea Archaeology Project, and he describes the finding as something he never thought was even possible, let alone something he'd witnessed in his lifetime. This discovery changed what we knew about ships in the ancient world. The oldest intact shipwreck known to mankind. Yeah, this won't be beat ever, I don't think. This thing is older than most curses, so yeah, had to throw it in here. Number 3, the Dragon's Triangle. If you thought the Bermuda Triangle was bad, this one's worse. This triangle takes the blame for disappearing ships and planes and all that horrible stuff, but the occasional UFO sighting too, just to jazz it up. In 1945, a Mitsubishi A6M0 went missing, and the pilot's distress call said the sky was opening up. Yeah, the sky opened. What in the Spider-Man No Way Home is happening here? That's one event, just one, but 10 years later, in 1955, a Japanese ship named the Shinyo Maru lost radio contact in the same exact spot. Triangle o' Doom. It didn't take long for the New York Times to coin the term the Devil's Sea, which I'm sure helped this whole curse story. All these spooky triangles, are ocean currents to blame, or is there something cursed about these devilish triangles? Again, let's try changing the name up, see how Mother Earth feels, Instead of calling it the Devil's Triangle, call it like the Nice Triangle, and then maybe she'll stop. Number 2, Chuck Lagoon. This lagoon was Japan's main base during the war, but come 1944, the United States launched an attack in what some deem is now Japan's Pearl Harbor. This is when 60 ships were sunk and around 250 planes as well. So for 70 years, there's been a massive graveyard just sitting in the Pacific, and it wasn't until recently where we finally got a good look at these haunting artifacts from history. A photographer by the name of Super Jolly went down and did the dirty work for us. He called this shoot one of the scariest dives he's ever done in his entire life. Yeah, rightfully so. I can't even swim with goggles in my lake, let alone go somewhere. What? No way. They described the atmosphere filled with human skulls and gas masks and bullets as haunting. It was like an abandoned museum underwater, all the things that you don't want to run into while you're diving. Nobody was expecting these artifacts to be all that well preserved after all this time, but photos are even still intact too, so it's a haunting reminder of naval warfare, as are a couple of these other ones. And finally, number 1, MV Derbyshire. This ship was twice the size of the Titanic, but James Cameron didn't make a movie about it, so many of you may not know the grim details. 42 years ago, the MV Derbyshire was the largest British registered merchant ship of all time to sink during peacetime. What makes this tragedy even more memorable was there was no distress call at all, or even wreckage found for quite a while. She was assembled back in 1976, but she was lost in 1980. She was en route from Canada to Japan. Although she was following proper ocean routes with weather routing companies, it still went down. September 15th, 1980, a search began for the missing ship and crew, but 6 days later, the search was called off. Nothing was found at all. The ship was declared lost, and the sister ship of the MV Derbyshire ended up sinking as well later on in 1986 due to a deck cracking problem. So the families then urged officials to search again for the MV Derbyshire, and it's a good thing they reached out, because come 1999, the Derbyshire was found. Don't give up that look. If you ever lose something, just keep looking, even if it's, a cursed haunting shipwreck. Always keep looking, I guess.
At number 10, we have the gulper eel. As you might imagine, this scary looking eel has an extremely large mouth that they use to swallow their prey whole. If that's not terrifying enough, the gulper eel is so adapted to eating large objects that its mouth and stomach can even expand further to accommodate food. There's actually not a lot known about this creature because, well, they live 3,000 meters below the surface, but from my own observations, I'm not a scientist or anything, but I can tell that I never want to come face to face with these guys. Apparently they can grow up to 6 feet long, which is not okay, and they have extremely long tails that they use like a whip in order to move through the water fast. Fangtooth comes onto this list at number 9. Take a look at this nasty underbite. Quick, someone call the orthodontist because this thing needs to be fixed ASAP. Well, as it turns out, the snaggletooth fish uses his underbite to his advantage in order to kill his prey. These creepy fish can grow up to 2 feet long and they live in the deepest parts of the ocean. So scientists are still trying to discover more information about them. All we know for certain is they have sharp hooked teeth and they use this to snag their prey. Evolution really helped them out because in the deep sea, food is pretty scarce, so you need every advantage that you can get. And you know what? Note to self, stay away from the deep sea. And now at number 8, we're talking about the viper fish. These nightmarish fish live at depths of up to 2,800 meters, and they are mainly found in tropical waters. Thankfully, they are rarely seen by humans, so we're safe for now. One of their organs lights up, which is so cool, which actually protects the viperfish from other predators that are moving below them. The light also helps to attract prey, and they use it to communicate with mates and rivals. Now, let's talk about their teeth. Their teeth are unusually large, and when it hunts in the dark, their large teeth help to grab and hold onto their prey, so they have no chance of escaping. And when they catch a larger prey, they can swallow them by rotating their skull. The viperfish is one of the most fiercest predators in the deep sea, and the scary part of them is once they bite into you, it will be too late and there's nothing that you can do. Making our way into number 7, we have the giant spider crab. I mean, no thanks to this. Normally, I wouldn't consider crabs as like, something that is scary, but there's exceptions to everything, and there's an exception to this. This giant crab has super long legs and huge pincers. These guys are one of the largest crabs in the world, and lucky for us, they live at the bottom of the ocean.
Are basically giant underwater spiders. One big difference being that they have claws strong enough to seriously damage human beings.
These crabs can weigh up to 44 pounds and they have a leg span of about 13 feet. I mean, we're talking about their leg. Is this real life right now? I'm officially scared for life. Nothing should be that big. Oh, and get this, they will eat just about anything, including corpses. And even though these crabs are massive, they're extremely good at camouflaging their enormous bodies. And now let's talk about the razor sharp claws. They're able to move pretty fast and they're able to kill other smaller animals with ease. Their claws are so strong and large enough to pry open mussels and clams. So keeping that in mind, can you imagine what they can do to a human? Terrible claw lobster brings us to number 6. This thing looks like they came straight out of a horror movie. The terrible claw lobster has one really long, scary looking claw that kind of looks like a chainsaw, or maybe that's just me. This creature was discovered in 2010, so fairly recently, and it was found 250 meters below the surface in the waters in the Philippines. Am I the only one that's concerned that we've only discovered this thing 9 years ago? What else is living in the water that we don't know about? Thankfully, these lobsters only grow up to 3 centimeters. So they're fairly small, although they probably look big in pictures right now. So his long toothed claw might be the only thing terrifying about him. Even though this lobster is, relatively tiny, I wouldn't want to be pinched by his razor sharp claw. I'm pretty sure he can amputate my big toe if he really wanted to. Number 5, we have the sarcastic fringehead. And believe me, I'm not being sarcastic about his name. This terrifying creature can open its mouth insanely wide so that he can easily devour his prey. The sarcastic fringehead fish lives off of the Pacific coast of North America, and they are extremely temperamental.
They now compete to intimidate each other, opening their large jaws to make themselves seem monstrous.
They are fierce territorial creatures that will aggressively protect their homes. Whenever they sense danger, they will open up their enormous mouths and show their needle-like teeth in order to defend themselves. At first, they will give you a warning by flexing and snapping their jaw, but if their enemy ignores the warning, they won't hesitate to use their ferocious teeth to attack. Chimera takes us to number 4, also known as ghost sharks, ratfish, or spookfish. This strange looking creature with the really strange names, well, they live deep in the oceans, and scientists believe that they are some of the oldest fish to have ever lived. I mean, take a look at this picture right here. They have huge dark eyes. They look like they are staring directly into my soul and your guys' soul right now. They kind of look like a robot or mechanical. Most chimeras live deep in the water, which makes them very hard to study. But what we do know is that they have 3 pairs of tooth plates that protrude from the mouth like a rat. Oh, and their teeth are extremely effective at grinding shells so they can easily eat their prey. Let's just say that I'm happy that chimeras aren't interested in humans, but I guess they can evolve and things can change. And yeah, I'm like nervous laughing right now. Number 3, we're talking about the tongue-eating louse. This thing is actually super disgusting. Well, let me explain what this gross monster does. First, this creature will enter a fish through its gills. Then it will change sex while living in a parasite within the fish. And then it will attach itself to the fish's tongue. It sucks out all of the blood on the fish's tongue until the tongue just falls off. I don't even know what to do with that information. That is absolutely terrifying, and now I'm gonna have nightmares about these gross little creatures crawling in through my nose and like sucking the blood off of my tongue, and I'm probably gonna have nightmares about my tongue falling off. Someone in Belfast bought a fish from a supermarket, and when she went to prepare dinner, she noticed a large parasite in its mouth. I'm pretty sure I'd never eat another fish in my lifetime if I saw this in person. The woman actually took the fish back to the store to get a refund, and before you start jumping, to conclusions here, the tongue-eating louse doesn't pose a risk to humans, but I'd still be pretty traumatized if this happened to me. Northern Stargazer takes the number 2 spot. If you're planning on a scuba diving vacation, you might want to consider getting your money back. On this list, we've seen a lot of hideous and scary looking fish, and the Northern Stargazer is no exception to that. Judging by the name, this fish sounds pretty docile and friendly, right? Well, think again. You guys know what you guys clicked on. This dead looking fish buries itself into the ocean floor, and it will jolt out at its prey while opening up its giant mouth in order to swallow his prey whole. Well, let's watch this guy in action. That fish never even stood a chance. This is actually pretty barbaric. I'm never going underwater ever again. My scuba diving vacation is canceled. Actually, I don't even have a scuba diving vacation planned. I work too much. And now, coming in at number 1, we have the Goblin shark. The Goblin shark, I mean, what the heck is this? This is one of the oldest sharks ever, and it's often referred to as the living fossil because of it. A lot of this shark's lifestyle is completely, a mystery to scientists. The largest goblin shark on record was 12.6 feet long, and it weighed in at 463 pounds. But it's possible that goblin sharks can grow much bigger than that. One of its most distinctive features is its long, flattened snout, and nobody knows exactly what it's used for. But one of the most terrifying things about this shark is how they hunt. Their jaws are attached to elastic ligaments, so when a prey comes close enough, they can protrude their jaw, which allows the shark to catapult its whole mouth forward at a distance of 8 to 9% of its total body weight.
The teeth are sunk deep into the sleeve of the wetsuit, trapping the shark.
If humans were able to do this, we would be able to bite into a piece of food that is 7 inches away. Like, just imagine that. Actually, it'd be pretty horrifying.
In at number 10, we have the frilled shark. Yes, a shark with frills. Now, looking at this absolutely terrifies me. It's some kind of cross between a shark and a snake. Like, absolutely no thank you. The frilled shark is classed as a living fossil and exhibits primitive features. Now, it's around 2 meters long, so 6.5 foot. That is a big shark. It has an eel-like body with anal fins and 6 gills. Now, it preys on smaller sharks by lunging at them like a snake. Ugh. These sharks can be found anywhere from around 1,200 feet deep to 1,500 feet, and the most be in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. In at number 9, the creepiest deep sea creature with the best name, it is the sarcastic fringehead. I mean, oh my goodness, look at this deep sea creepy creature. Like, it doesn't look sarcastic at all, it looks like it's being very, very serious when it says it's going to eat you. For me, it looks like a rainbow Death Eater from the deep depths of hell. The sarcastic fringehead lives 240 feet below sea level. It is a foot-long fish, so around 30 centimeters, and they are found in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California. Now, these fish like to live in little nooks and crannies. They like to live in discarded pieces of rubbish in the ocean, and they'll pop out and come and get you if you try and disturb them. For example, this fish will engage in a mouth wrestle with other sarcastic fringeheads if they have turf disputes. Now, they have a big old face. Look at that big old face. That is defense mechanism right there. They have needle-sharp teeth that could really pierce human skin if they came in contact with them, but they're not a major threat to human beings. So next up, we have the gulper eel. That's right, the gulper eel. I have some kind of like sympathy with this gulper eel. It swims around the ocean with its mouth wide open, hoping just to catch some food, and I kind of feel like that's me on a Friday night after like a long week. But then the sympathy stops when I look at its face and I think, oh my goodness, you could straight up engulf me. The gulper eel lives 3,000 feet below sea level and is luckily rarely seen by humans. Its mouth is much larger than its body and it can span 2.5 feet in length, so around 75 centimeters. Whilst the gulper eel has a massive mouth, it has comparatively very small teeth, so it can only eat smaller things. Essentially, the gulper eel is just a big show-off. In at number 7, we have the snaggletooth fish. The snaggletooth, also known as star eaters, a deep-sea stormid fish. Now, this fish is even creepier as it's luminous. It has a light-up red chin, guys. A physical light-up red chin. It uses this bright chin to lure in prey, which is usually smaller fish. I mean, look at its milky glazed over eyes. I just can't even. Now, this fish is found at around 500 meters deep in the sea and is around 26 centimeters long. In at number 6, we have the giant spider crab. That's right. Now, this terrifying crustacean lives 1,000 feet below the sea and can reach up to 12 foot long. This is the biggest crustacean in the ocean. Often called the Japanese spider crab, this snippy little snipster lives off the southern coast of the Japanese island of Honshu. Now, they'll eat anything including shellfish, they can pry stuff open with their claws, they'll eat dead fish and plants at the bottom of the ocean. Now, some people even go as far as to say that if dead bodies sink to the bottom of the oceans of sailors, etc., these crabs will eat them. No. Ramping up the creepy at number 5, we have the goblin shark. Yes, that is its actual factual name, the goblin shark. The goblin shark lives around 1,300 feet below sea level and is legit terrifying. This prehistoric nightmare has a family lineage dating back 125 million years. Now, this shark is pink in colour, has a flattened snout, is about 3.4 meters long, so 11 foot, and hunts for fish and crustaceans on the bottom of the ocean. Now, these are found around most of the world. You can find them off the coast of Australia, off the coast of North America, around the coast of Africa, and even off the coast of some European islands. Creepier still at number 4, we have Tiburnia. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's creepy anyway. Now, the Tiburnia is a red jellyfish. It's big, it's creepy. Have a look at this deep sea jelly. Instead of tentacles, it has feeding arms. Just flappy feeding arms. I can't deal with the flappy feeding arms. This big red nightmare lives about 4,000 feet down in the ocean and has thick fleshy oral arms. I can't. This jellyfish lives so far down in the ocean that we don't know a lot about it, but we do know that it's found in the Pacific Ocean. In at number 3, we have the humpback anglerfish. You know this fish, you've seen it, it's depicted in Finding Nemo. It is just as terrifying in real life, if not more so, because this is, as Landon would say, real life right now. The humpback anglerfish is often understandably called the common black devil and lives up to 6,000 feet below the sea. I am so afraid of this fish, I don't even know what to do with myself. Let me tell you the creepiest thing about these creatures. All of the males are absolute creeps. They go around the ocean looking for a female humpback anglerfish, they attach on like a parasite and live there forever, sharing sperm with her. Oh my god guys, just get off their back. Now these beasties live so deep down in the sea that we rarely see them, but we do know they're found mainly in New Zealand. In at number 2, we have one of the biggest, creepiest deep sea nightmares, the vampire squid of hell. I'm not making it up, that's its actual name, the vampire squid of hell. This hellish squid has the largest eye in the world. It has light up mucus and talons on its tentacles. Oh my god. It is actually neither a squid nor a vampire. It is more like an octopus and it eats particles of matter like marine snow. Now if you don't know what marine snow is, it's actually particles of decomposing stuff that float down to the bottom of the ocean. Kind of gross. It's actually very well adapted for its environment and it lives around 3,000 feet deep in the ocean where there isn't much oxygen. For me, I just can't get over the glowing mucus. No.
Starting off at our number 10 spot, we have Leviathan. If you're unfamiliar, this is a now extinct genus of macroraptorial sperm whale. It is believed that they could weigh around 100,000 pounds and reach up to 57 feet in length, and it's thought that their size is what helped repel other predators while also helping them become the predator themselves. The Leviathan also had enormous teeth that reached over a foot in length, which is what gave them the title of largest bite of any tetrapod. In our number 9 spot today we have the Kronosaurus. This Cretaceous marine reptile is one that had an elongated head, a short neck, and a stiff body that was propelled by not just one, but 2 sets of fins that helped propel it through the water and through strong currents in order to capture whatever prey it was after. These guys were somewhere around 30 to 40 feet in length and they had many long, sharp, conical teeth, with some of them also being enlarged to be fangs. So yeah, I mean, what more could you want in a terrifying sea creature? Along with the fossils found of these guys, experts have been able to determine some of the stuff they ate, and it includes turtles as well as other pliosauruses, which these guys are a part of that genus, meaning they basically ate their family. In our number 8 spot today we have the colossal squid. We've got a lot of prehistoric creatures on this list today, but for this one we are taking a dive into our modern ocean. The colossal squid is a creature that is not to be confused with the giant squid, which is similar but slightly smaller. These guys live in the darkest, coldest depths surrounding the waters of Antarctica. This creature lives up to his name as it reaches an average of 46 feet in size and weighs around 500 kilograms, with the females being the largest of the species. They also have large tentacles equipped with suckers that have little razor hooks on them to better latch onto its prey, so let's hope it's not you. Its diet mainly consists of large fish, such as the 7-foot Patagonian toothfish, and small ones, and some even consume their own kind. But they've also been known to try and consume larger prey, like sperm whales, who often have been seen with scars attributing to the battles they must have faced. Only 2 specimens have ever been collected, with the second being found recently in 2014. If you ever wondered where the tails of the Kraken came from, you now know. In our number 7 spot today we have Jacalopterus. Okay, I've got 3 words for you. Giant sea scorpion. Yeah, this 8-foot long arthropod lived in the water with its gross 2 large pincers and claws, and honestly it looks like something out of the movie Alien. These guys had segmented bodies and they were actually the largest known arthropod to have ever existed here on Earth. They had multiple specialized limbs and some of them even had spikes, like for example their 18-inch spiked claw that was used to snatch fish that passed by. It is said that some of these guys would crawl out of the water in order to mate and sometimes shed their outer skin, and all I have to say is imagine finding an 8-foot long bolt of one of these creatures on the beach right before jumping in for a swim. I'd swear off all water after that. No thanks. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Helicoprion. Okay, listen, there are many problems with our modern world. We could sit here talking about them all day, and into next week there are so many. But here's the thing we need to realize. Things could be so much worse, and by worse I mean this creature could still exist. This animal existed somewhere around 250 million years ago, and while it looks more like a shark than anything else, scientists now know that it was actually a creature that is more closely related to chimeras, which are a fish that separated from the shark family about 400 million years ago. So why is this animal so scary and just terrible to look at? Well, that is due to the incredibly unsettling spiral saw formation of teeth that this creature had right on their lower jaw. Yeah, an orthodontist's dream, truly. It's also not like this creature was just born with the teeth that they had for the rest of their lives. No, of course not. They had teeth that could grow, and new teeth could even form. Imagine being in the ocean and you see a huge creature swim up to you that has 4 spiral saws for teeth. Yeah. No thanks. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Mosasaurus. During the Cretaceous period, which spanned about 145.5 to 65.5 million years ago, there was this genus of reptiles called Mosasaurus. These guys were absolutely huge aquatic reptiles that roamed throughout the waterways here on Earth. Because of their size, they became apex predators during this time and have been estimated to have grown to be about 56 feet. At the time of their existence, it isn't exactly likely that they would have encountered any sharks that are alarmingly large like the Megalodon was, but I mean, the Cretaceous period certainly had some other massive creatures that put up some pretty stiff competition. This is, of course, like I mentioned, an entire genus, so there are definitely some less threatening species in the mix, but there are some in there who would have given the Meg a run for their money should they have existed at the same time. In our number 4 spot today, we have the big fin squid. Okay, the squids that live in our oceans are terrifying. There's no other way to put it. The big fin squid is not often seen, and thank goodness for that, because they are so unbelievably freaky. They can be found in many different oceans, but they live in the permanently dark zone of the ocean, around 1,219 meters or 4,000 feet deep in the sea. On November 11, 2007, as an ROV was searching around the deep dark waters in the Gulf of Mexico, it was able to catch one of these guys on film. While there is still a ton that remains a mystery about these elusive creatures, it is believed that they can grow to be around 23 feet long or over 7 meters. The real creepy stance that these guys have is when they hold their really long appendages perpendicular to their body, which creates like a sort of elbow look. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Plesiosaurus. These guys are a prehistoric creature that was massive and grew to be about 43 feet long. They had these super long necks that basically took up like half of their body, and even though they were so massive, they had no trouble moving efficiently through the water. These creatures had 4 flippers, so our best guess as to how they swam would be sort of like a penguin. Their front limbs did most of the work, while the back ones kind of did like the steering. Fossils have been able to show us that these creatures gave birth to live young and are actually kind of similar to dolphins in the way they take care of their young. It is thought that these just may be the creatures that inspired the tales of the Loch Ness Monster. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Basilosaurus. These guys have a name that translates to king lizard, and they are a genus of large predatory prehistoric whales that lived during the Eocene, which is approximately 41.3 to 33.9 million years ago. These guys were actually first described in 1834, which makes them the first prehistoric whale known to science, which is kind of cool. These guys were one of the largest, if not the largest of their time, and they were the top predators of their environment. They preyed on sharks, large fish, other marine animals, including the dolphin-like Dorudon. Really, they were able to eat basically anything that they felt like eating. These guys even had teeth that were various types, like canines and molars, which probably allowed these creatures to chew their food, which is different to their more modern ancestors. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Pliosaurus, another massive prehistoric creature, also not to be confused with the Plesiosaurus. These guys grew to be around 40 feet long and about the size of some of the whales we would see today. These creatures are best known for their insane hunting abilities. They could move quickly and they were quite strong. This effective predator skill set, coupled with their massive size, allowed them the ability to take down much larger prey, sometimes even dinosaurs. According to experts, these guys had exceptionally strong jaws. Some even believe that it might have had a bite bite just as powerful as the T-Rex, which is of course known for having one of the most powerful bites of any land animal. I'm just saying, these guys were definitely a top predator in their day. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the stargazer. These fish are absolute nightmare fuel despite their nice little name. Their eyes are located on the tops of their heads, which is what gives them their name, but they have this strange little habit of burying themselves in the sand with only their face exposed before suddenly leaping out in order to catch their prey. These guys are also a venomous fish, and if this wasn't enough, there are some species which also have an electric organ. Because they have the ability to camouflage themselves and ambush predators and can deliver both venom and electric shocks, they have been called the meanest thing in creation. In our number 9 spot today, we have the flying spaghetti monster. I know it sounds silly, but I swear this creature really does exist. This deep sea creature is a species of siphonophore that can usually be found in the Atlantic Ocean. While these guys appear to be one organism, they are actually a colonial organism, which means that they are composed of many medusoids and polypoid zooids. Zooids are multicellular units that develop from one single fertilized egg, and they combine to create functional colonies like the flying spaghetti monster. In our number 8 spot today, we have the wolf trap anglerfish. This is a species of anglerfish that is usually found in the deep waters just off of the coast of Mexico. While all anglerfish look pretty strange, these guys just might take the cake on the weirdest looking fish in the angler family. These guys were actually discovered quite recently, only a few years ago, and this, coupled with their deep sea habitat, means that a lot of information about them remains a mystery just waiting to be uncovered. Like other anglerfish, these guys also have the bioluminescent lure that is used for attracting prey. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Pacific viperfish. The Pacific viperfish can be found at different areas in the ocean depending on the time of day. They usually like to stay in the bathyl zone, which is about 1,000 meters to 4,000 meters below the surface of the ocean, but during the nighttime they will sometimes rise up into much shallower water because there is more food for them to eat. It's easy to pick out which fish is a viperfish because of the fact that its jaw is sticking out forward and then it has those extra long pointy teeth. The Pacific viperfish is predatory and mostly eats other fish, but will also chow down on crustaceans, plankton, and shrimp. This fish can grow to be about 1 foot long and are considered one of the most aggressive fish for its size. I know it's only 1 foot long, but hearing how vicious it is coupled with how ugly it is, and I really just don't want to be anywhere near this thing. One cool thing about this fish though is that they have what is called ultra black skin, and it reduces the reflection of anything that is illuminated around them so that they can camouflage themselves easier in the darkness of the deep sea. In our number 6 spot today, we have the sea spider. Okay, if you're like me and don't like the spiders that exist on land, unfortunately this one isn't going to be up your alley. Sea spiders are giant, and they like to suck the life out of their prey. Yeah, how terrifying and honestly gross. They basically just latch onto their prey for dear life and suck out all the fluid they possibly can. They are gross, but they technically aren't actually spiders. These guys have a leg span that is comparable to some of the largest land spiders, but the things with these guys is that they carry their organs in their legs because, I mean, they're basically all legs. The good news is that they prefer really cold temperatures like the ones in the waters surrounding Antarctica. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Atlantic wolffish. Okay, these guys are named due to their teeth, and honestly you can totally understand why. On both the upper and lower jaw they have 6 sharp and strong teeth that honestly would freak anyone out. Because of how strong their teeth are, they tend to eat hard shell creatures like crustaceans and mollusks, and they also are important to keeping the sea urchin and green crab population in check. The wolffish like to stay mostly in one area and tend to live in near freezing temperatures. They have a very cool feature though. Because they live in such cold temperatures, they have what is basically just antifreeze running through their bodies so that they don't freeze up. Even though they look super creepy, I have to admit that is pretty sweet. In our number 4 spot today, we have the fangtooth fish. The fangtooth fish has a mouth full of razor sharp teeth, perfect for clutching just about any size of prey in its jaw. That's right, any size. They live in the deepest parts of the ocean, the deepest having been recorded at about 16,000 feet. That is, until they just so happen to feel like migrating up to the surface for a little vacation. Unlike a lot of other deep sea dwellers, fangtooths do not have any bioluminescent organs to attract their prey. prey, but that is because they're not the sit and wait kind of predator, and instead they seek out their meal using their excellent sense of smell. They're more active than most deep sea dwellers and heavily rely on any light that may seep into their dark home. In our number 3 spot today we have the deep sea lizardfish. Deep sea lizardfish are a small family of deep water fish who are related to the telescope fish. These guys have flat heads and curved barbed teeth, and they grow to about 78 centimeters or 31 inches in length, which makes them a pretty moderately sized fish. They prefer to stay at depths of 1,600 meters or 5,200 feet, and they are actually one of the world's deepest living apex predators. These lizardfish are known to eat anything that comes their way, including other fish of their own kind. That's messed up. Despite the lack of light in the depths of the ocean, these guys have large eyes and pupils, and their vision is actually really important for their prey detection, as well as their well-developed eyes that allow them to see any residual or bioluminescent light. Not a lot is known about their reproduction habits, but one thing that is known is that the deep sea lizardfish have both male and female reproductive organs, which is thought to be an adaptation to low population density. In our number 2 spot today we have the faceless cusk eel. Anything that's called faceless certainly can't be good, and this eel is absolutely no exception. These guys, they don't have a face, and they honestly look like the dementors of the deep sea. The first time one of these was found was in 1873 when oceanographers aboard the HMS Challenger discovered it, but for a century no one else really came across one of these guys. Perhaps it's because they like to make their home in the icy waters located about 13,000 feet below the surface of the ocean. Just a few years ago, when these guys were sort of rediscovered, one of the leaders of the expedition, Tim O'Hara, told The Guardian that, quote, "It looks like two rear ends on a fish, really." Apparently the mouth of these guys sits underneath its body and can extend out to catch food before disappearing back inside its own body. So that's kinda gross, kinda cool. In our number 1 spot today we have the hagfish. There are about 76 different species of hagfish, and some of them are known to live as deep as 5,500 feet below the surface of the ocean. While the hagfish isn't particularly the best name, they are also known by an equally disgusting name of slime eels, and this is because their body produces a sort of goop that is used to ward off predators. This slime that they release has recently been found to impair the function of a predator's gills, so it seems as though it's a pretty effective shield. Aside from this defense mechanism, if their slime doesn't work and they find themselves still caught in the grasp of a predator, they can sort of tie themselves into a knot in order to escape the clutches.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the New Zealand monster. In 2013, a woman called Elizabeth Ann uploaded a video to YouTube of this creature washed up on Pukehina Beach, New Zealand. Now most of its 30 foot or 9 meter long body was buried in the sand, leaving only its flippers and a mouth filled with sharp teeth visible. Elizabeth said it had been washed up during a recent storm and appeared to have been attacked by something else in the water. Before tests were even done, people were speculating about an even bigger creature out there, a killer of sea monsters. At number 9 now, we have the Raystown Ray. This one comes from Pennsylvania's Raystown Lake. Now for many years, locals there reported seeing a large shadowy figure just below their boats, sending them rocking in the turbulence. Then a local fisherman finally snapped these pictures of it. They quickly spread around the world until the managing director of the lake admitted they had known about the creature for quite a while. Personally described it as a private creature that often came to the surface in April, that it was a vegetarian, and that humans were most likely safe around it. But knowing all this didn't satisfy adventurers who still visit Raystown every April hoping for a glance. Moving on to number 8 now, we have the Corfu sea creature. In 2015, a Scottish tourist called Harvey Robertson was visiting the Greek island of Corfu and took some pictures inside a sea cave. Now it wasn't until he looked at them later that he noticed this strange creature in the frame. As this image spread online, even the experts were baffled about what it could possibly be. It appeared to have a nose and snout and looked nothing like the usual animals found in that area. Harvey himself said it looked like a creature from Greek mythology. Next up at number 7, we're going to Australia. In February 2017, the internet was very confused to see this image image of a strange creature that washed ashore on Fremantle Beach in Western Australia. Its body was ash grey on top with a white underbelly. It was already decomposing when it was discovered, but people noted that there were parts of it missing. How it got there, what it was, and who or what had taken huge chunks out of it are still being hotly debated. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the Montauk Monster. In July 2008, the Montauk Monster washed ashore on the Ditch Plains Beach, Montauk. The media went into a frenzy as people tried to figure out what it was. Its legs appeared too long to be a raccoon, sea turtles don't have fur or teeth, dogs don't have those kind of eyes or feet, and sheep's teeth aren't that sharp. Some people still maintain that it was a raccoon. Now the issue would have been put to rest if scientists were able to examine the corpse, but as quickly as it appeared, it disappeared not long after and has never been seen again. Alright, next up at number 5 now, we have the Hook Island Sea Monster. On December 12, 1964, photographer Robert Le Serec was in a rowboat off Hook Island in Queensland, Australia. Suddenly, heading towards him and his family in the water was a huge 80-foot long creature. Robert quickly grabbed his camera and snapped these pictures you're seeing now. It appeared to be some sort of giant water snake with a tadpole-like head. As it came closer, Robert said it appeared to have smooth skin, no fins, pale eyes, and a white mouth with no teeth. He also said it had a wound on its back, and that could have been the reason why it was taking shelter in the bay. As he tried to take more pictures, it seemed to get annoyed, it quickly turned around and swam into deeper waters. Alright, coming in at number 4 now, we have the Windermere Worm. In 2006, kayaker Tom Pickles took this picture of a creature in Lake Windermere, England. Now at first he thought it was a dog, but as he got closer he could see just how huge this thing was under the water. Tom said it was about the size of 3 cars and it sped past him. He estimated it was moving at about 10 miles per hour. The 3 humps you can see in the picture were moving in a rippling snake-like motion. Other people were very pleased to see this picture because it confirmed to them that their own sightings of the Windermere Worm were real. Next up at number 3 now, we have the Lagerflöt Worm, otherwise known as the Icelandic worm monster. For almost 700 years, locals near Lake Lagerflöt in Iceland have reported seeing a huge serpentine creature there. Along with the pictures of it, it's been described as being longer than a bus and has even been sighted lying outside of the water, sometimes slithering into the trees. A terrifying thought. Even the head of the Icelandic National Forest Service said they saw it. For the locals though, this isn't a good thing, as the 700-year-old legend says that bad things follow the worm monster's sighting. Moving on to number 2 now, we're going to Russia in June 2015, where a prehistoric-like mutant creature washed up on the shore of Sakhalin Island. Now as you can see, it was a very shocking sight for the people there to find. The bloodied, ripped up carcass was twice the size of a dolphin, with thick hair hanging off it. Marine biologists were very puzzled. Nothing they knew seemed to match this sight of an enormous dolphin-like creature with a beak and fur. Some people think it might have come from warmer waters to die. And finally at number 1, we have the Loch Ness Monster. What else could it be really? It's possibly the most famous sea monster of them all. It had been a local legend at Loch Ness in Scotland for over 1400 years, but ever since it was first photographed in 1933, the stories and pictures have captured the world's imagination. Nessie is said to be a large dinosaur-looking creature, almost like a plesiosaur, but with extra humps on its back. Some of the pictures have been outed as hoaxes, others have been explained away as natural objects in the water, but for the Nessie enthusiasts of today, there is no smoke without fire. They believe that even if you take away all of the fakes, there are still many stories and many pictures that need explaining. Unexplained sea creatures. What are they all about? What I find incredible is that a lot of these creatures are just washed up on the shore. Who knows what's still lurking deep in our oceans, seas, and lakes.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Foraminifera. These guys are giant, single-celled organisms that are kind of like oversized amoebas, and they can be found in the sediment on seabeds throughout the world. In 1995, however, when Japanese researchers were able to collect samples of sediment located in the Mariana Trench, they found 432 living Foraminifera. I know I made these guys sound really large before, but I just mean large in terms of the single-celled organism world. They are still super tiny, and they are usually found with a hard outer shell, but not these ones that were found in the trench. These guys have found a way to adapt by basically building their own shells from proteins, organic polymers, and even sand. The ones most commonly found in the Mariana Trench are called xenophyophores, and these guys use the fact that grains of sand are mostly made of silicon dioxide, which is the main constituent of glass, to to their advantage. They basically glue sand from ocean sediments, cast-off shells, and microbial skeletons to make their own kind of pressure-proof shells. So I guess these guys really are like the engineers of the deep sea. In our number 9 spot today we have the benthocodone. We have all seen a jellyfish before, but these deep sea dwellers are unlike any of the ones that we usually find. Firstly, they prefer depths of around 2,500 feet or 762 meters, usually right on the sea floor. These guys are actually quite small and compact, with their bell usually measuring just 2 to 3 centimeters in diameter. Despite their small size, however, they still have around 1,500 little wispy tentacles that help to propel them through the icy cold depths. These jellies like to chow down on small crustaceans and tiny unicellular organisms, but sometimes their meals are bioluminescent, which is what has led them to develop one of the other unique features on these jellies. This unique feature would be the red color that can be found in part of their bell. Most jellyfish we know of are transparent, and if this was the case for these ones, their bioluminescent meals would be a dead giveaway for the larger hungry predators lurking around the deep sea. This is why the bit of a red that they have in the bell is so important to their survival, as it acts as a cover for this blue glow so that they continue on their merry way throughout the dark depths of the ocean. In our number 8 spot today we have aluminum plated amphipods. These guys are found throughout the Mariana Trench, including in the Challenger Deep, which is the deepest part of the trench. Amphipods usually have shells made out of calcium carbonate, but the extreme environment in these guys' habitats makes their shells basically just dissolve. They of course can't just be walking around naked and shellless, so what do? They adapt in order to preserve their shells. After collecting some of these guys from the deepest parts of the ocean, scientists were able to realize that their exoskeleton contained aluminum on the surface, which then led to the question, how did these guys find the metal since it is pretty sparse in seawater? Well, as it turns out, these guys use sugar-based chemicals in their bellies to extract aluminum ions from the mud on the sea floor that it ends up ingesting while devouring the plant debris that floats down from the surface. In alkaline seawater, these aluminum ions form what is called aluminum hydroxide gel, which is a compound that we as humans use for things like protecting our upset stomachs from stomach acid. This gel then coats their shell and acts as a type of chemical protection so as to keep the calcium carbonate exoskeleton from dissolving. I don't know, I just think that's one of the coolest things that I've ever heard a shrimp do. This is the first known amphipod to do something like this, and these guys are now an important part of researching how maybe one day we can find an environmentally friendly way to produce aluminum. In our number 7 spot today we have the deep sea hermit crab. Okay, many of us have seen or at least heard of a hermit crab before, so at first thought they are the weirdest thing out there, but as it turns out the deep sea variety is quite interesting. Instead of these guys carrying around empty gastropod shells like the hermit crabs we're used to, these guys instead carry around sea anemones, and it is one of the weirdest looking things I've ever seen in my life. It looks like these crabs are missing a pair of legs, but instead the legs have actually been adapted to hold the anemone in place. It's definitely an incredible evolutionary advancement for these crabs, but I just can't help but be creeped out by it. In our number 6 spot today we have barophilic bacteria. This bacteria is characterized by its preference for an environment with pressure greater than atmospheric pressure, which of course makes a place like the Mariana Trench a perfect candidate for a home. These bacteria have been isolated from deep sea environments and found to grow rapidly at low temperatures and high pressures. This low temperature high pressure combo that is found in the deep sea environment is usually the cause for the decrease of the fluidity of lipids, as well as the depression of the function of biological membranes, but this doesn't happen in this bacteria, which has led to the theory that they must have some sort of mutation to have a sort of mechanism that allows their lipids to adapt to their extreme environments. Aside from their superpower, these bacteria help to support life by being a source of carbon for the deep sea animals that end up ingesting them. In our number 5 spot today we have vent crabs. Vent crabs are so named because they absolutely love and thrive in the extreme environment that is found at hydrothermal vents. These white crabs are actually endemic to hydrothermal vents, and they were first described in 1980. The crabs in this family are usually blind and abundant. In fact, their numbers are so vast that scientists often use the clusters of them to help find the location of hydrothermal vents. The eyes of vent crabs are what I really want to talk about today because they change throughout their life, which helps them adapt to their environment. Young vent crabs usually have eyes that would be comparable to their shallow water companions, but upon metamorphosis, their eyes degenerate and they become naked retinas. Hydrothermal vents produce light in the infrared wavelengths, and this change in the vent crab's eyes was made through evolution because it actually allows them to better see this light, although it causes them to not be able to see most other things. It's like a similar concept to night vision goggles. So basically, vent crabs have night vision. Kind of. It is so interesting to see and learn about how deep sea creatures adapt to their individual environments and circumstances. In our number 4 spot today we have baby shark. So apparently shark fetuses with 2 heads are becoming more common around the world. Who would have thought? According to experts, the mutation that leads to this trait is known as axial bifurcation, and it's seen not just in sharks but other animals as well, including humans. The question though is why it is starting to happen more and more often in sharks. Sadly, this mutation has quite a negative impact on the sharks, as it is unlikely that the sharks with this mutation will even live to see their own birth, but for those who do survive until birth, it is highly unlikely that they will survive long in the wild. Right now, scientists are working hard to figure out what is causing this mutation specifically in the sharks. The leading theories include overfishing, which is leading to a smaller gene pool and thus a higher susceptibility to genetic mutations, or even potentially things like metabolic disorders, pollution, or viral infections. In our number 3 spot today we have the brittle star. This is a species that was found in 2011, but it took 10 years for it to be researched and fully classified, which happened just last year in 2021. This is a species of brittle star that was found during an expedition on the Banque Durand seamount, which is off of the coast of New Caledonia in the Pacific Ocean. This specific brittle star first caught the attention of experts because of 2 atypical features. One was that it had 8 arms. This was unusual because most have 5, and the other unusual feature is their 8 sets of razor sharp teeth. It is believed that these teeth, which line every jaw, are used to snare and shred their prey. This creature definitely is quite remarkable and is the product of millions of years of evolution, where it has adapted and changed greatly to fit its needs in the changing environment around it, but it is likely the last survivor of an ancient lineage which dates back to the Jurassic period. In our number 2 spot today we have giant isopods. Despite their appearance, these guys are neither aliens or pillbugs and are just one of those strange and weirdly large deep sea creatures. These rather large crustaceans can reach lengths of around 15 inches, and while that's not the biggest deep sea creature out there, that's pretty insane for the isopod world. These guys get their size from what is known as deep sea gigantism, which is an evolutionary tendency for deep sea creatures to grow larger than their shallow water counterparts. It isn't exactly clear why this happens, but it does and is seen in a few different species. It is thought that this may be due to the cold temperatures, which may increase cell size and lifespan, which both may lead to increased body size. In our number 1 spot today we have the deep sea dragonfish. These guys are a pretty strong contender for strangest looking animal on this list. These predatory fish use their fang-like teeth to grab onto their prey in their dark, cold deep sea environment. They have no scales and instead have slippery eel-like skin, which only adds to their creepiness level. Similar to the anglerfish, which you might be familiar with thanks to the Disney Pixar classic Finding Nemo, these guys have a little lighted barbell that hangs from its lower jaw in order to attract its prey towards it. These fish really use bioluminescence to their advantage, but they also have another less common ability. Firstly, since many of their prey are also bioluminescent, they have adapted to have a special stomach that will ensure that the light cannot be seen from inside of their stomach so as to not give away their position. Secondly, they're able to produce a red glow. This glow is thought to perhaps be used to signal other dragonfish, but it is definitely used by them to illuminate and detect their prey. They are the only known fish that has the ability to both produce and see red light, as most fish can only see more of a blue light.